A common question that comes up for veterans who are contemplating applying for VA disability benefits is that they simply didn't go to the doctor while they were in the military, and they wonder, can I even win this claim? Is it even worth my time putting in a claim just to be denied because I can't prove it? I have no treatments of me having this problem while I was in the military. So how is it even possible that I'm going to win? And, this is a common question. I'm here to say that it is possible. If you don't have medical records while you're in the military, it's okay. There are still some options, and we're going to talk through that in this video. But before we do that, if you don't mind hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, that really helps me out, and I think that it'll help push this video out to other veterans that are looking for the same type of information. So the first thing that I want you to do is I don't want you to worry about this. If you have a disability, if you have a condition, and you think that there's some sort of theory in your mind that this was caused by your service, then let's talk about what you need to do to win this claim. The number one thing you want to do is you want to figure out what is the condition that you're going to go for. There's probably 2, 3, maybe even 4, but let's focus on one at a time. You can obviously put in more than one condition or put in claims for multiple conditions, but we're going to tackle this problem one condition at a time. So whatever your disability is, whatever your condition is, whatever diagnosis you have that you think was caused by service, that's what you want to look at. You want to ask yourself the question, why do you think it was caused by service? What in your mind leads you to believe that the condition you have was caused by service? And a lot of you guys are going to answer the question, well, I did a lot of road marches, or I PT'd a lot, and that's why my knee is so messed up. And you know what? You're probably right. It's very possible. But you didn't go to the doctor. So how are you going to get this thing service connected? And there are ways, and I'll show you here in the next slide. But the main thing is that you need to figure out your anchor, right? Like every single condition that's going to be granted by the VA has to have some sort of event that happened while you were in the military. All right, that can be an injury. It can be like an exposure to something. You're thinking, loud noise exposures for, your hearing. We're thinking an exposure to like a burn pit or chemicals. It could be something. It could be anything. But you have to find that anchor first. You got to figure out what it is that's gonna be stuck to that in service, like that. And whenever I say an event or an injury, I don't mean like a one-time thing. I mean like constant wear and tear on your knees from jumping out of airplanes or constant road marches. That can be your anchor, but we've got to have something to put in that spot. All right, so once we've figured out what our condition is and why we think that it's connected to service, like we know what our anchor is, we need to start figuring out how we're going to tell this story. We've got to know what it is, and we're going to do that in a personal statement, okay? In your personal statement, it can be very simple. You can start off by telling the VA what condition you're claiming for. Maybe it's a knee condition. Maybe you have arthritis in your knee, and maybe you think that your arthritis was caused from years of jumping out of airplanes. Or maybe it's a back condition. Maybe you have disc degeneration and you think it's, from years of jumping out of airplanes, or whatever the case is. Maybe you injured yourself while you were on a deployment, and you had those, that injury continued providing symptoms of back pain, starting from that point all the way till present day. But you never went to the doctor to get it documented. Whatever it is, whatever your story is, start writing it down on a personal story into your personal statement, And then we need to start thinking about what else or who else can help us prove that story. There's other veterans, right? Maybe somebody saw that injury where you were hurt, or maybe there was a car accident where you got whiplash while you were on active duty and you started having neck pains from that point forward, but you never went to the doctor. Maybe you sprained your ankle playing basketball while you were in service on active duty. Who else saw that? Did any other veterans see that? Maybe you had an exposure to something while you were in the military. We're talking here any type of records from our service. DD Form 214 to show different, deployments, orders, anything that can help kind of corroborate the personal statement to support whatever it is that we're claiming in our story. We need to start thinking about that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. We also want to talk to our doctor and maybe mention to your doctor that you're applying or you're considering to apply for VA disability benefits for the knee that your doctor's been treating for so many years, and ask them, hey, what do you think about this concept? Is it possible that this could have been caused by, this event that I had in the military? And, if the doctor agrees that, yes, it's very possible, and they're willing to, document that or articulate those facts in a letter, then ask them to write the letter. If they're not willing to write the letter, maybe they can document their their theory in your medical notes. Something to help your case a little bit, because at the end of the day, you're going to go to a CMP exam, and really that CMP examiner, you could tell your whole story to the CMP examiner, and if they agree with you and they believe that they can, take whatever it is that you're saying or claiming happened, they could also write you a nexus in your DBQ. So at the end of before that happens, we want to make sure that we have all of this evidence to support whatever theory it is that we believe caused this incident in service. And it is frustrating. I understand. Veterans, I think we oftentimes think that the VA should just be able to figure it out, but that's not the way that it works. This is the way that it works. And if we can develop the right evidence to support that, we can most certainly win these VA disability claims without in-service, treatment records from when we went to medical appointments in the military. The last thing I'll talk about on this slide would be independent medical opinions or nexus letters. If you can't get your doctor to support you by writing a letter, but maybe they do agree, but maybe they don't have the time to really articulate, a lot of science-based facts to support, whatever it is that we're trying to, whatever theory we're trying to prove. You can always go to a medical professional that does write these independent medical opinions or nexus letters. They oftentimes charge, sometimes, quite a bit of money, but they are out there, and some of them are pretty good, and some of them have high success rates. I do have a directory on my website, informedveteran.com. I'll put a description to it down in the box below. But there are doctors that I've pulled from various places that I've found them on the internet and included them in a directory so that vets can look for them. And eventually I'll have it set up to where vets can rate them or review them so that you can learn from other veterans who are looking for a doctor to write an independent medical opinion. I will throw a caveat on there that I do not vet these doctors out. I don't think there's anything wrong with them, but I do encourage you to do your own due diligence before paying for one. And then finally, the VA is going to decide your claim based on evidence and credibility. So if you're looking for, whatever evidence we can throw in there and making sure that it's credible evidence, the VA can most certainly grant you service connection for a disability that you are currently dealing with that was never, ever, treated while you were in the military. So it's definitely possible. This last slide, I have some evidence types that can fit into the bucket for service connection, helping you, connect your current diagnosis to, your service, your in-service event or injury. So once you figure out what your anchor is going to be, whatever it is that you think caused your condition, you can use things like a buddy statement, all different types of service records, pictures of, maybe, I don't know, something, you being deployed overseas, or maybe, I don't know, whatever it could be, articles, something, think maybe you have PTSD from something that you were, from an incident that occurred in the military, maybe a suicide, and maybe you witnessed it. Maybe there was an article in a newspaper to prove that, that happened. That would be something that would be useful. Or maybe, maybe there was an attack or something overseas that ended up being, written up in an article. That could be something you could support as theory or to support your theory. Your 214 obviously lists a bunch of things that could be relevant to a rater who's going to make the decision on your claim. It could also be helpful during your CMP exam to show the medical professional, whoever's doing your exam, that you were in a certain place at a certain time. Deployment records, maybe letters home, right, from a deployment. Maybe you witnessed something or observed something and it really bothered you. Maybe you wrote your significant other about it, or maybe, I don't know, maybe something, anything. Like there could be some letters home, some emails home that you sent that might be able to document like how you felt during a certain time. I'm thinking more of like mental health. Or maybe you emailed, one of your significant others or something while you were deployed. Maybe you got injured and you never did see a doctor, but you talked about how it was really bothering you. That could be good evidence. Your own personal statement, of course, is always great evidence. And of course, an incident report. Maybe there was, something happened where an incident was documented at work. Maybe you got yourself in trouble, and maybe it was a letter, some sort of counseling or reprimand that I don't know, that documents some sort of activity that happened. Maybe your evaluations, your performance evaluations showed like you declining your productivity. And, over the years after a certain incident happens, I think that could also be something creative that might be useful to show that, some sort of incident that happened to you caused you to go from having like, really great performance evaluations to not having good performance evaluations. Remember, we're trying to, build evidence to show that something happened in service, and and there was an impact on that. And the last one is independent medical opinions or nexus letters. I think if you're at the end of this and you don't think you have enough evidence, but you think that you have something that would work, I think going the IMOs is a great way to do it. Especially like on mental health or even like an orthopedic condition, because a doctor that does this for a living, that knows how to, that understands like VA, how the VA makes decisions. I think a doctor can, easily listen to what you're trying to say and figure out whether or not, it's practical or it makes sense or it's credible. And, and I don't think most doctors would put their license on the line. I hope, just to get a Nexus letter written for you, and in a $500 check. So I'd like to think that, if you did think you had something and you're trying to get it service connected and you went with one of those doctors because they were the last resort, I think it could be valuable for you in some circumstances. So, this is it. So the ultimate answer to this is yes, you can get service connected for a condition that was not treated while you're on military service, so long as you can show some sort of anchor in the military, some sort of event that happened. You can certainly do that. So good luck.